Hi, everybody. Trying to get myself set up here. Um, Welcome to Passoscope EDU for October, and I'm really excited to be a part of this. I'm hoping that more people jump in and hop on during the rest of the day. It's 9 p.m. here in Kuwait, where I am, and I really like the topic, which is why I decided I have to join in today because it's been a really busy day for me and should be the end of my day, but I'm really excited. So the topic for this month is what is Discover ED? And I am constantly discovering. And so I think that it's really important for me to share the kinds of things that I'm discovering and for educators, all of us. I'm retired now. I retired in July, so I just recently retired. And I'm still discovering things about myself, discovering things about education. There's still things I want to discover about education. And so, what I wanted to talk about today was the fact that I rediscovered blogging. And I started blogging about 2 months ago. I blog every week, and I have been blogging about my own personal journey in Kuwait in a bilingual family with lots of things that have gone on in my life over the last 35 years that I've been in Kuwait and the 25 years that I worked in education here, both international education at the elementary and kindergarten levels, and also in pre-college programs with students who are mostly Arabic first language speakers and their experiences with English. And it's always, for me, education has always been discovery. Um, what I've discovered about education, what I've discovered about myself through learning with other people. Um, Yesterday, I was listening to a recorded webinar because I'm going to be a mentor, hopefully, for OEM Connect. And they were talking about the fact that it's really, mentorship has a lot of different interpretations. And I've mentored many different people over the years into, discovering themselves. And as they discovered what they were good at, as I tapped them on the shoulder perhaps to be a teacher leader or to move from an assistant's position to a teaching position, they were surprised because they never really even thought about themselves in those positions and probably wouldn't have put themselves out for being able to take a leadership position or moving from an assistant to a teacher position if perhaps somebody hadn't come up to them and said, you have potential. And through those experiences and through my through colleagues, through other teachers, when I became an administrator, a principal, I've learned so much and discovered so much about myself. I've told this story many times. Feedback, we talk about focused feedback and how important it is for our students, and it's also really important for adults. And so I remember one of the first parent meetings I had after I became principal at an all-girls school here in Kuwait, and found that, it was a little bit of a difficult situation. The parents had come in, the superintendent was sitting with me, and she had lots of experience. She hadn't been at the school very long, but she had lots of experience in Ontario, Canada, with being a teacher leader, a supervisor, principal, and so forth. And so she was debriefing me after the parent meeting, after the parents left. And she told me, is it okay, if I share something with you, don't be upset or whatever. But she said, I feel like as a new principal, you need to hear this. And so I said, yeah, sure. I'm always learning about myself. She said, well, you're not a very good listener. And I was shocked. Um, Not a good listener. Why? I always felt like I was a really good listener, or at least a decent listener. Um, and I asked her, I said, why? Why did you make that observation? She said, well, a number of times the parents were talking and you interrupted them. You didn't let them finish. And I said to her, well, I was afraid that I would lose my train of thought. I didn't mean to be rude or anything like that, but I was afraid I'd lose that thought that I wanted to say. And she said, well, you're going to have to figure out how to hold on to it, because she said over the years that I've had experience with parent meetings, many times they just want somebody to listen to them. And it's really important not to interrupt. So if you have a way that you can get in order to be able to remember things. Um, and so, that was 30, no, that was 20 years ago. And I still remember it had an impact on me. So after that, I really tried very hard to sit and listen very carefully. And I ended up about a year or so after that comment that she made, the feedback that she gave me, I had a parent meeting. The mother came in. She was very upset. Her daughter had come home and said that the teacher had, upset her. And so I sat and I listened. It was hard for me, but I sat and I listened. I wanted to defend the teacher. I wanted to, tell her different things about the situation, react. But I was very quiet, listened, and I, tried to keep my ideas to myself. And after about 5 or so minutes, she finished talking, and I asked her, I said, well, is there, anything that you need me to do, or are asking me to do? And she said, no, I just wanted you to know this is what my daughter told me, and I was really upset because I didn't want my daughter to be upset. And I think, I thought that you should know. And if you feel like there's anything that, if you feel like there's anything that she needs to know about my conversation with you, then, please feel free to share it. But that's all I need. She didn't ask me to do anything. And so that made such an impact on me. And I thought, thank you, Gwen, my superintendent, for telling me that I needed to be a better listener. And I think gradually my colleagues, my team, um, people in my personal life have begun to value the fact that I am a good listener. And I really try to hear people out fully before I react. And that that has been a real bonus in my life. So that's something that I discovered through ED. Um, some of the other things I've discovered is just personally learning about myself. I was at ISTE this past summer, and I am a very private person. I don't usually share. It's something that it's just my personality. I feel that maybe I don't mind. I love listening to people's stories, but I never thought that my stories were, not that they weren't that important to other people, but that people would be that interested in my stories. And at ISTE, it seemed like everybody who uh, who met me was really interested in where I came from, how I moved to Kuwait, the kinds of things that I have been involved in as a result of living here for so long, including learning the language, including integrating into the society. What was life like for me in the beginning? what was it like raising children, um, what was it like working in the schools here. And so that really prompted me to get back to blogging, which I had left because I felt like my demeanor, my own self is very intellectual. I do a lot of research. I love to read research. And when I'm speaking, a lot of times what comes out is a lot of information. And I've learned over the years through educators and through following people on Twitter that telling your story and being really honest about what you've experienced really helps other people, and they're very interested in that. And so I've sort of made a leap of faith, and I started blogging about my experiences here. Um, I've been talking about some of the topics that I've talked about were my experience as a refugee, which I never really thought that I was, but during the 1990 war here, we were outside the country and we ended up not being able to come back for almost a year. We weren't sure when we would be able to come back. I suppose I never thought of myself as a refugee because we had a roof over our heads, we had food. Um, we were in a safe place, not in a tent, not moving not worried about war where we were because we ended up staying in Spain at the time. But the more I thought about my passion for helping refugees around the world and people who are either involved in natural disasters or wars or whatever, or who are displaced. And there's so many people in that situation now, and so many children. And so I began to reflect on my own experiences. And although I was very blessed to be able to come back home, a lot of what I experienced, I've read that other refugees have experienced, and that the whole trauma of coming back afterwards, the trauma I experienced, the trauma my children experienced as a result. And so I blogged about that, and something that I would never have done before. Um, but I realized through other educators, through following people on Twitter, that everybody appreciates the honesty and the storytelling. Um, and so I blogged about that. I blogged about learning Arabic, which was an interesting endeavor because I learned the written language, which is modern classical Arabic, versus the spoken language, which was the Kuwaiti dialect. But then I had to understand the other dialects. So, for instance, Levant countries, Lebanon, and so forth. Egyptian Arabic, which they have a lot of slang words. They pronounce letters differently, and so it enabled me to learn more about the culture here and the history, which is very rich. And I have been able to share that now with through my blog. And so that's been really an exciting experience. And some of the other things that I've learned is learning about different technologies, how to use technologies. I mean, things like Periscope, which I'd never heard of before, and Flipgrid and Wakelet, which I'm now so passionate about. And Flipgrid, I wish I had a classroom so that I could experience Flipgrid with students. And so I'm trying to figure out ways to use Flipgrid. And so all of that is through making connections, growing my PLN. And so when you ask me what is Discover ED, I'm literally daily discovering things ED every day. Discovering things personally about myself, discovering things about other people, discovering about different technologies, and how that can all be pulled together with my passion projects, which I'm hoping now will be educating refugee teachers and educating refugees. So for those of you who are on here live, thank you so much. And for those who end up watching the recording, also thank you very much. I really enjoy Pass the Scope EDU every month. And I have Margaret Atkinson to thank for that. I'm president of the ISTE Global Collaboration Network. Global collaboration is another one of my passions that I've learned about through Discover ED. And you just being part of the group, I hope more people will begin to join back in the Pass the Scope EDU, because I think it's a wonderful way to share our stories. And I think my time is up. I'm not sure who's coming next, but I hope people will pop in during my evening and during your day. And wherever you are in the world, I hope you're discovering, just like I am, every single day. Have a great one. Bye for now.